My name's John Ryback. I go by he, him pronouns. You can also call me they. And I really want to appreciate you all for coming out today because this is a topic that's been near and dear to me for nearly 30 years. And as a research biologist, historically, it's been a really fascinating journey to learn what's going on here as a patient and share that with you from an evidence base. So let's get into it. I want to let you know my disclosure. I am the owner of a medical clinic in Portland, Oregon. We specialize in pain management, and but that being said, that this is entirely self-funded, and I've communicated with where I'm on faculty at OCOM and where I'm in the process of my doctoral program. So I really want to make sure that this has taken a lot of time out of my family and also my employees. So I just really want to take a second to acknowledge them because they have made this all possible for me to do the research and sit down and really share this with you in a way that I hope has an impact. Today, let's go through our learning objectives. There are some obstacles. I want to be able to relate the primary obstacles to acupuncture utilization. And as we get going, the evidence is so important, and I want to give you some seeds and some digestible pieces of information so you can recall the evidence base here, because it's so fascinating, but it's very nonlinear. It's not a single chemical mechanism. It's not a single mechanical mechanism. And so we're going to get into that, and I hope that I can give it to you in a way that inspires you and it allows you to recall what I'll be delivering today. I want to make sure that everybody has the ability to give examples to conditions treated. So whether you're a referring physician, another type of medical provider, a behavioral therapist, a patient, a policymaker, this is really important. I just want to be able to encapsulate that for you. And then also be able to assess potential referrals for your friends and your family, for your patients, and understand that process. And utilize your acupuncture referral network. It's vast, and as I'll show you, it's vastly underutilized. And how to assess and choose your provider, whether it's for yourself, for your referral, your patients, or as an organization that's trying to incorporate a new type of healthcare into your system. Just want to share a little bit about me because I'm what you call the accidental acupuncturist. It's truly by accident. I went kicking and screaming. And the reason I show you these pictures here is just because it's been a journey. And that journey started in 1989. And that kid up there was 12 years old, played football for 5 years. Not just necessarily the best idea, but that's what got me here. I found myself riding on the back of an ambulance pretty quickly on and playing football. And I was strapped to a backboard riding to an ambulance, riding to the nearest ER, which happened to be 25 miles away because I grew up in rural Colorado. I also speak fast because I'm fourth generation Chicago people, so I'm kind of a mix of country and a little bit of city in there. But I was also a huge nerd. I started publishing in scientific journals as an ecologist when I was 15, and that swept me off into academia and then into working for government agencies and private sector. Down here I just wanted to share an example of that. I'm working in Borneo right there, and we're taking time in a village, and the whole purpose of it is to preserve the remaining pieces of this magnificent, it was such a beautiful rainforest. But you had to really work on the economics for people. So this is a systems approach, and that empowered me to bring it out and share with you the systems approach that acupuncture represents. Because I used to work in biological systems and social and economic systems and cultural systems and making sure you're bridging that with people. And now my journey eventually took me through 10 years of chronic pain from that kid. I went through 10 years of every standard medical modality, like x-rays, MRIs. I went through countless PTs, way a lot of chiropractic. And eventually, I was in my early 20s and my mom's like, you got to try this acupuncture thing. She read about it in like the parade insert in the newspaper. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, they don't have that anymore. But she's like, I heard this acupuncture thing. And I was like, Mom, acupuncture's fake. I mean, it's placebo at best, and I don't like needles, so no way. So I was desperate, so I gave it a try. And it blew my mind, and it helped me realize as a scientist at that point I'd been publishing and working in a lot of different organizations. Very blessed, I would just want to acknowledge that, to have had those opportunities. And it worked in a way that I didn't expect it. Not only did my digestion get better because I was taking a ton of pills, like ibuprofen, bought it in bulk. And so my digestion got better, my sleep got better, and I was a crabby guy. I mean, like, I was like stressed because I was like, I'm gonna be top of academia in my department, blah, 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 blah. You know, and so, but pain just compounds, and we've spoken about it all week long. And then I just wanted to get the car out of the garage. And so eventually I was like, I have to go do this. I moved to Southeast Asia. I lived in China. I lived in Japan, and I just studied and studied and studied and saw where the rubber hits the road. Worked in clinics in Singapore. And then we're just really taking it out. And that's my team there right now here at the Wellbridge Clinic. And that's how we're approaching it. Oh, I'm sorry, like I did a TED Talk a couple weeks ago, and I just want to make sure that you all get an opportunity, thank you, to look at that when it comes out. It's gonna be a more storyline-based version of what we're talking about today. But that will be published shortly. Please give me your contact information. I need a launch team because we're trying to get like 6 to 7 figures of views on that one. So I'll ask anybody who's willing to watch 12-minute talk of me up on stage at UC Davis, and then like and comment. Yes, that's how you play the algorithm game, but really appreciate you guys. Okay, so this is all inspired through frustration. I've been working through the Oregon Acupuncturists Association for the last almost 10 years. I retired, if you will, in November of 2023. But my last opportunity where I was liaisoning for the last 3 years as a representative of our profession at the Oregon Medical Board, and I made sure I wrote this article for them because really one of the things that in my upcoming is most of my friends are physicians. So we're always making sure that I'm communicating, but even my friends, and these are the people I watch Super Bowls with, we go camping together, we spend New Year's together, they're like, still, I've known them for 30 years, and they're like, John, like, take the tin hat off. I just don't even know. I don't get it. So I was like, well, we need to get the word out. So I took the time to write this article. Kellyanne, also, who's my colleague here, she helped and gave me her eyes on this before we submitted it. So I just want to give her a shout out. And just to let you know and reiterate here, is anybody here a skeptic, acupuncture skeptic? Please, yes, thank you, awesome. Like, I am, yes, please, yes, Chris, appreciate it, Randy. Anybody else? Oh, come on, I really want more skeptics. So I just love this one. I'm a skeptic. Like, I really went kicking and screaming. And I want to give you something to hang your hat on here. So you're not, I'll do interviews for acupuncturists at my clinic, and I'm like, so would you please describe how acupuncture works to my 90-year-old grandmother? And if I hear the word universal energy, man, or chi in there, I'm sorry, like chi is a linguistic model that we use, but my 90-year-old grandmother does not have that in her vernacular. And so that's where I always make sure that we're communicating well. So I really want to ask you all, what would you do if you had a medical option that was shown to have impact on multiple physiologic mechanisms and has been shown to be effective for pain management? It improves serotonin, dopamine, and melatonin production. It's been shown to reduce opiate prescriptions in postoperative situations. It supports addiction recovery, and the mechanisms are known, and that research is going on at BYU University. It's demonstrated reduction of ER visits. ER visits are expensive. Patient-reported improvement of quality of life. Kind of nice. I like added benefits to my medicine. We have a problem. We've been talking about it all week. There's persistent pain. Research shows, and you have a QR code to all my references at the end of this talk, so you can always access everything I'm speaking and fact check me. Persistent pain affects over 100 million Americans every year. There's less than 400 million of us. That's kind of a lot. Annual costs of persistent pain exceed $435 billion a year. The next highest diagnostic code is, I think, heart disease, and it comes in at like 309 billion. And in doing so, let's just keep in mind that in 2022, the NIH reported that Americans spent $4.5 trillion on our healthcare. It's kind of a lot. In 2012, that was 2.3 trillion. So that's almost double. And if you haven't paid attention to statistics and longevity stats, we're not doing a really good job. I'm not saying acupuncture is a grand panacea, but at 1.7% of Americans utilizing it, we got a problem. If we can change that decimal point, that's why I'm here. I really want to make sure if we can move that to 17%, there's a lot of change that can happen at a cost-effective rate. So a lot of research out there. This is a Journal of American Medicine, Medical Association, and mixed modal multidisciplinary approaches are the answer. And that is a collaborative care. That's everybody involved. Bring everybody off the bench. And in doing so, we get reduced pain severity, improved mood, improved quality, overall quality of life is reported, optimized. And this isn't just acupuncture. This is using behavioral CBT. This is also where we're using our PT and like all of our tools. This is an all hands on deck scenario. Increased social well-being. I mean, I don't know what happened to what your view of post-COVID's like, but we need a little bit more of that. Increased physical well-being and increased psychological well-being. This is a whole systems approach. This is a holistic medicine. The holistic word has kind of been dragged through the mud a little bit, but let's take a picture of what acupuncture is, because this is where we kind of start tripping up as a profession on our side. And I just want to make sure that I'm taking responsibility here for our profession, because ultimately, in two words, acupuncture and Chinese medicine is an organizational system. Okay, as Kellyanne, if you were in her talk, visited her talk yesterday, she kind of gave an example of what an initial intake looks like. It's extensive. At our clinic, we do take the time because we do clinical acupuncture, which I'll talk about, as opposed to like community acupuncture and pop-up acupuncture. And there's a lot of different versions and ways to implement at different levels of need and function and cost. It's an organizational system. Okay, so we take vast amounts of information and we have ways to categorize that so we can create an individualized response. So it's not just like a knee pain is a knee pain is a knee pain. We're also looking at it orthopedically, and I know my PTs in the room know this. You're moving up to a hip, you're checking back, you're like, what is going on there? But we also have internal medicine in many countries, including California and New Mexico. We're primary care providers, legally designation there. Problem is that we use a 3,000-year-old language. I mean, I don't know about you and your medical providers out there, but nobody speaks that language. We use a different language now. And it's our responsibility as a profession to start up-leveling. We have to be bilingual. I heard a great Ephraim Korngold, who was like one of the old, he learned acupuncture years and years, like decades ago. He was one of the first licensed acupuncturists in the country. Heard a story from him, and he was studying in China, because in China they're bilingual. They speak biomedicine or modern medical terms, and this 3,000-year-old linguistic model. And he said they were complaining, just like most acupuncturists complain. We're like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about the science. But at the end of the day, one of his professors, who is Chinese, he was studying in Beijing, said, but isn't the world better when you're bilingual? I mean, like, it's so much better. You can communicate to more people. So anyway, excuse me. What is acupuncture? Acupuncture is an essential health benefit as legally defined by OAR 836.053. So we are in Oregon. We're an essential healthcare benefit, and what that means is that it's covered on all CCOs, all private healthcare insurance plans, etc. Problems. Okay. Problem with acupuncture. Top down. 60% of acupuncturists, this is a 2012 number, I was unable to find a recent survey. 60% of acupuncturists work part-time or are underemployed. The Department of Education has been closing schools because of gainful employment. And that brings us to the second one. The median income of an acupuncturist is $25,000 a year. Yeah, hang on to your butts, kids. No, seriously, I have people, they're like, I want to be an acupuncturist. They come to my clinic and I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Unless you really, really, really love it. And it's fun. I love what I do. but there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind my smile. I mean, like you're hustling, and I literally, I mean, I was in research. I bumped into friends and physicians, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, John, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm an acupuncturist." Literally, they just walk up to me and go. I'm not even kidding. It's traumatic. Like, that was a trauma moment for me. I'm sharing with you. Student debt, over 6K. It's a really big thing. Inconsistency of knowledge, and this is where we have to take responsibility for ourselves. Inconsistency of knowledge and application of the evidence base. I mean, honestly, we're just not communicating. We've been here, licensed professionals, since the late 70s and the early 80s. In Oregon alone, I think we were a licensed medical profession regulated by the Oregon Medical Board in 1982 or 83. No, it was 83 because it was 50-year anniversary last year. And then, I mean, honestly, you never know what you're gonna get. Are you gonna walk into a place that's massively filled with cultural appropriation? Do you really wanna have Buddhas in your face? Do you want crystals? Like, my clinic, there's no cultural appropriation. I'm like, well, everybody's welcome. I wanna make sure everybody's comfortable from all backgrounds, mindsets, etc. And that's the hypervariability of clinical settings and clinical practice and communication that we're struggling with. And then there's also the hypervariability issue is that there's so many types of acupuncture. Everybody's probably heard of dry needling at this point. Really important. I do support PTs and chiropractors doing dry needling, but we have to acknowledge the fact that you can get a dry needling certification, and I don't know if this is not an exhaustive research of all the dry needling certifications out there. You can get one in 50 hours. You can get in 53 hours, you can become a dry needling practitioner. Acupuncturists go to school for almost 4,000 hours. It's different. It's different. I want doctors. I would love to teach the doctors in the room. Here, somebody has a migraine, they're coming in with a really bad tension headache, they got low back pain. There are a couple of things that you can get them, knock it down a couple points and just get the tears to dry. Because it's a thing. I would love to be able to do that more often. Because it shouldn't be something hidden, but then you want to refer to your medical specialist, and that's what we are. But there's like this is the heterogeneity. I mean, you get like TCM, classical, and boy, these two fight. Like you get into a lot of arguments in our industry. And sports medicine acupuncture, and you get meridian acupuncture, and then 5E acupuncture, and then your head spinning, and then here I am, and this is mine, orthoneurosystems. Honestly, because I'm such a nerd and I couldn't help it, I went and hung out with the experts from all of these schools, and I was like, okay, let's synthesize here. I'm a systems biologist. Whether it's socioeconomic, cultural issues and managing a rainforest in Borneo, that's part of what I do. And so orthoneurosystems is really kind of, and I just really try to use a biomedical term in there because there's so much more, and the systems in there has another underlying meaning that we can go into another day. But I just really want to approach that when you are looking for an acupuncturist, the word acupuncturist still you're opening a can of worms. And that's great. And there's a lot of different ways to approach it. If you're not getting results, you might not, if you go to a 5E person and you have like been in a car accident. A 5E person doesn't have a lot of orthopedic emphasis in there. They have their skill, but it's more of a mental, emotional perspective. And there's a place at the table for that. But I just want to make sure everybody understands what you're getting in different situations. We'll go into a couple more examples of that. Okay, my favorite part. See, what are we doing for time here? Making sure, okay, we're doing all right. So one of my favorite things here, and this is where we get into the nitty gritty. This is the part where I get excited. So again, I just want to remind everybody there's going to be a QR code at the end, scan it, and you'll be able to get the research that corroborates everything I'm about to say. Because it's a lot, and it defies our understanding of Cartesian logic, that linear, black or white, this or that, two-dimensional. Chinese medicine, particularly in acupuncture, is working on mechanisms of action that really, I'm probably not, it's kind of bombastic. It will inform the next layers of biotechnology. And electroceuticals, and because this is a bioelectric environment we're working with. And we talked in Kellyanne's talk last night about why sham acupuncture, placebo acupuncture doesn't work. It's because if you take surgical sterilized steel and put it into an electroconductive tissue, you're gonna create a change. It'd be like me going up to the plug here and sticking a fork in it. I'm gonna get electrocuted. But if I went down behind the wall and stabbed the wire, I'm gonna get electrocuted. And actually, unfortunately, we're speaking about like nanoamps as opposed to like amperage. And so that's a subtlety we're working on, and it's measurable, and the data's out there. And this is what's really exciting. There's a slide at the end. I just threw it down at the end if we had more time, and I'll talk more about it at the end. And I'll talk about electroceuticals for anybody that's tickled by that. Okay, so when you're doing that, you're having a mechanical impact. And when you have a mechanical impact, especially when you're using a surgical sterilized steel as a tool, you're having an ionic change. So you're having a couple different initial impacts. And when you do that, you get some chemical changes, and then you get some electrical changes, and you get some mechanical changes. So fascia and collagen fibers actually really conduct electricity. And then cells also conduct electricity through ion channels. And when you do that, you actually get a remodeling of the connective tissue. And it's not just the acupuncture, because our scope of practice is quite vast. And you're going to get cupping. You've probably seen it, Olympians and some of your friends maybe walk around with those funny circles, or Hollywood starlets. Yeah, there's a couple different ways that we could remodel it. We can do it mechanically. And we go through semesters of understanding how to use cupping in a really, we don't learn it on YouTube. We learn it like in classroom settings and talk about the mechanisms of action, typically from a Chinese medical vernacular. But and then furthermore, you're going to get a lot of biochemical changes in the body that reduce inflammation. Okay, and then we also have changes. If you put a foreign object in the body, you're going to get an immune response. But it's not just the foreign object that you're getting a response to. You're not just getting mast cell degranulation. You're getting an actual change in how our systemic representation of our immune factors are changing. And here, one of the most important things for our conversations about addiction and recovery and pain is that we get a release of endorphins and endogenous opiates. This, like acupuncture in the late 70s, was when you have Candace Pert, Molecules of Emotion. She probably should have, I think there was a really tragic event of her supervisors. You read the book, Molecules of Emotion. She probably should have got a Nobel Prize or some really powerful prize, but honestly, it was gender discrimination, and all of her data was scooped up by her office and taken away. Read the book; it's really good. It's short and easy to read, and then you'll understand a little bit of how we only just recently understood these mechanisms that are endorphins and our endogenous opiates, our enkephalins, and how they actually change. And that is one of the primary mechanisms that's been established for half a century of acupuncture. And a lot of this acupuncture data actually informed PT. Mechanotransduction came from an understanding of acupuncture. And if you want to jump into that, that reference is in my in the references that you'll have access to. Neurologic mechanisms. This is the part that's really interesting. I really loved Crystal Collier yesterday. Wasn't that amazing? Your neuro. Yeah, know your neuro. So the central nervous system changes, and this is where I really was like super excited when I heard her speaking. Acupuncture has been shown to remap our brain patterning. And remember those images where she showed you like, oh, your limbic system gets fired up, or fight or flight. And that's your sympathetic nervous system up. And it's the 4 Fs. It's fight, flight, freeze, feed, and everybody's favorite, fornicate. So that's your animal. Like, it's acknowledged we're animals. And then, but we also have a frontal lobe, which she was talking about. And this is when we're able to emphasize that. And that's our parasympathetic nervous system. And acupuncture has been shown to remap like our limbic system, the parts of our limbic system down-regulate with acupuncture treatments measurably. A lot of fMRI studies and PET scan studies that are like 30 years old. It's not a new phenomenon, but it also changes. Also, we working on a peripheral nervous system. So then when people are having like nervous system disorders in many different varieties, and this is where we work with individuals to understand exactly what the mechanism of action is. But we're looking at this. Again, you can go into the details in my references, but like 15 years of MRIs and studying carpal tunnel syndrome really specifically, our brain maps each individual motor neuron onto our brain. And then in like carpal tunnel syndrome, it's like a healthy hand has like signal. It's pointillism. But in carpal tunnel syndrome, like they showed that it blurs. Like the brain doesn't get it. Not only do we have motor neurons being damaged out here by occlusion at different places, but we have a central nervous system impact that can be residual. The interesting thing is when they did acupuncture, they actually were able to redifferentiate those places where the brain stopped recognizing the specific areas. So it's like they just tuned remember when we had antennas for our TVs and you get the static? They tuned it, and it's one way you can kind of envision it. And there's a great YouTube video. I did not put that into my references, like 15 minutes. Actually, it's a lot longer than that. But the first 20 minutes is really good. If anybody's really interested in that one, I'd be more than happy to share it with you. It's by one of the primary authors. And then looking at our vagal tone. Vasovagal reflex. This is why everybody says roll your shoulders back. Take a nice diaphragmatic breath, because you're working the 10th cranial nerve. A lot of points that have really interesting names in Chinese medicine, like Anmian, peaceful sleep. We'll use that for insomnia. There were some questions about insomnia yesterday. You can actually approach that by working the vagal tone. So just some of the fun things that are going on that are being measured, and keep in mind in this research, this is not like a $47 billion a year industry that has an R&D budget that's like equivalent of a small country. Like, that's the pharmaceutical industry. We don't have budgets. These are people that are just really curious. They're nerds and they want to know. They're like, something's happening here. And that's why we're here. So, so behavioral health. There's behavioral people here? Yeah, right on. Thank you for your work. This is a really important. I just want to make sure that we're building the teamwork here, because when we're working here, like I was saying earlier, we're actually remapping brain activation. I mean, like, we can have these conversations, but you want to have a somatic physiologic impact, because if you don't have the mind and the body on board, yes, and some people can't exercise, and exercise is a great way to do it, but some people can't do 3 sets of 10, and you want to make sure that, or they just don't want to, and that's fine, and you have to honor that. And if that's in the conversation, I want to set you up for success so that you can understand how to communicate what we're doing here and what myself and my colleagues are doing. And really important to point out again is that dopamine and serotonin production changes. Oxytocin changes. Endocannabinoids, I mean, I don't think anybody really needs to keep going to the pot shop. I mean, it's like you just turn it, like get off the couch. Full disclosure, that was where my pain journey eventually, that's where I valleyed out. Fortunately, I wasn't in pain during the opiate epidemic, but once I finally got into college, somebody gave me some weed and I was like, oh my God, I don't feel pain. And then I ended up I wasn't like a daily smoker, but I self-medicated. And I don't touch the stuff anymore. It's just like, I don't want to be a know-it-all, do nothing. And I'm sorry if I'm being judgmental. I say that from a couch potato. And finally, I just realized, I was like, you got to get up and do something, find another tool. And fortunately, I did. And so I'm here to share that with you. And then you have GABA pathways, glutaminergic pathways, and melatonin. So we are actually stimulating melatonin production. So yeah, acupuncture has an impact. And we're talking about adaptogenic properties of the human body. If you just create circulation is what the premise is, and then I'm just kind of like ad-libbing and translating Chinese medicine. Like move what's not moving is one of our premises. It's full of all these really cute aphorisms in our medicine. And so, but if you just give the opportunity, increase the circulation, it's like, I don't know if anybody has seen in the gutter of your, if you ever had like a drain in front of your house and it gets clogged with leaves. We live in Oregon, Portland, just clear the gutter, and then a puddle that's been filling into the street moves. The body will take care of itself, and it's one of the really interesting scenarios that we observe. But what is this all about? I mean, I just told you a lot, and there's the old parable of the king or the queen, and they brought in their trusted advisors, blindfolded them, and then brought in an elephant and said, you there, you there. Tell me what we got here. And this is where we're at right now. We're still talking about things in this disjointed non-systems approach. My PT friends, I can't tell you how often I'm like, no, really, I got something for you, and I love it. I love skepticism, but let's have the conversation. My behavioral health friends, absolutely. My primary care physicians, we really need you guys on board, and I want to make sure that you have something that you can take home and go, oh, there's something here. There's really something here. And for all of us that are humans, we have these things called bodies, and we feel pain, because we all do one way or another, and we have health issues, there's another tool in your toolkit for everybody here. And like I've said, it's really underutilized. So let's just take a collaborative and systems approach to what's going on. I mean, honestly, this is the teaching of the ages. I mean, we've kind of lost that. In Cartesian logic, you know, I think therefore I am, black and white thing of the 18th century, it really brought us somewhere. It helped us really kind of like black and white, on or off. This brought us to this point, but we're at a new stage, and I don't want to overuse the word, but like we're at a stage that's much more multidimensional, and then we can like acknowledge like the mind, body, and the spirit, etc. And we can go from there. And there's a lot more that science can actually help us bring together. Now you might be wondering, like, what does this all really mean? And this gentleman, Andrew Vickers, who's an Oxford-trained biostatistician, he and his team must have been wondering the same thing. Like, what's going on here? And so they took the data, a meta-analysis, and after a massive amount of exclusion, I've actually contacted him about this study. And some of these trials were excluded just because of lack of communication. But we can go into research problems another time, but it took 20,000 individual patients, and many of them were from Germany, because the Germans did a huge study and they're trying to figure out how to lower their healthcare costs and increase their outcomes. And what they did is they looked at osteoarthritis, neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain, tension headaches, and migraines. And then they found that acupuncture has a clinically relevant effect on chronic pain. It was shown to be significantly relevant. Not only that, but it outperformed standard of care of what we're doing right now, and that's prescriptions, that's surgery, and just standalone physical exercises. Acupuncture was outperformed, and the interesting thing is that the results persisted over time. Sham acupuncture was also shown to outperform standard of care, but the results didn't persist as long over time. And it wasn't just like a little bit, it was really fascinating. The study is available for everybody out there. I encourage you to take a look at it. They did the original study in 2012, and then they reevaluated it in 2018. And this is what it's really a crucial part of the research literature. And it's just the beginning. And so what are we doing here? And well, how do you recognize somebody that can be helped by acupuncture? So this is not exhaustive, but I really want to break it down into the categories here of what we're managing and the conversations that we've been having for the most part this week. Acute pain. Acute pain is really important. I love to see acute pain people because it means that I don't have to see a chronic pain person. I'll give you a quick case study here in a second. Then the chronic pain people. This has so many different categories. There's so many people that wash up on the shores of an acupuncture clinic after 30 years. They're like, and I'm one of them. It took me 10 years. And I'm just like, nothing worked. I just can't get my autonomic nervous system to stop contracting my neck muscles. And then I probably would have been diagnosed with like a fibromyalgic diagnosis at the time, but this is in the late 90s, and so it's a little bit different. But now we have a lot of names for these mystery illnesses, and then addictions. And it's really important to understand that there are a lot of really cost-effective, easy to implement addictions therapies that acupuncture can work and coordinate into. And some of those mechanisms that we mentioned earlier is how this really works. The gateway to a lot of innocuous opiate addictions, and there's I work with a lot of people that probably would be categorized as an addict. They story of one individual that I've worked with for a number of years. She was in a car accident in the late 80s, and then had a really weird impact and broke her jaw, fell in a parking garage, and it was horrible. I met her in 2014. And at that point, she was on massive amounts of morphine, Percocet, and fentanyl patches. I mean, she was strangely, and this is a very high functioning person. This is before she went on disability, she was a legal assistant in a big law firm in Portland. Okay. She manages a stigma. I mean, because she's a proud person and she used to be very athletic. But she's debilitated by pain. Well, we got her off the morphine. Unless she has a flare up, she doesn't take Percocet. we're in her and her prescribing physician and I are on stepping her down from fentanyl right now, but it's really difficult. But she persisted with that since the late 80s, and I'm sure when I know, we'll talk about dosing. Like if I can get people out the door quicker, I want to graduate people. We always take new patients because we want people graduated. You go. I want to see you, but I don't want to see you forever. And then I want you to know that you come back in, like get your car tuned up, wash your car, change your oil, rotate the tires. Come on, we treat our cars better in our bodies. Hey, I haven't had acupuncture in a couple months. I need it. I got a little headache today, but it's probably because I'm stressed. But it's all happy stress. I'm really pleased to be here. So opioid utilization and acupuncture. I mentioned it earlier. This research is in the references. You can't really see it. Acupuncture reduces post-op opiate use. Fentanyl reduction, really important. Particularly in this fentanyl reduction was a German study, and it was an elder population for total hip replacement. I mean, yeah, we need opiates, don't get me wrong. I mean, we just need to use them responsibly and make sure that people have tools to manage that. Okay, I want to bring this back. So I just want to interject a story here. Lincoln Detox Center, this is a really important story. Acupuncture, everybody thinks, oh, it's like suburban, bougie medicine. No. In 1970, the communities, the African American and Puerto Rican communities of the Bronx, took it upon themselves, because we have talked about health disparities. We know this, yeah? Yeah, it's a thing. Like the stats are like, whoa. The Lincoln Detox Center, the piece of trivia, Tupac Shakur's adopted father was Dr. Shakur, and he helped run this place in the Bronx. Yeah. Dr. Shakur passed away in jail last July. But I'll tell you the story here. 1970s, it was a tough time for these communities. It was brutal, and the health disparities weren't categorized. Nobody cared. There was really a retaliatory environment. And so the Black Panthers, the Republic of New Africa, and the Young Lords Puerto Rican groups, and Society for a New Democracy, these are all student, young, youth, people of color organizations. They took it upon themselves, and they went to China. They learned this. It was not a licensable medical profession at the time. They persisted until the late 70s. They kept it going, and they treated addictions. This is Dr. Taft. He's a doctor from Baylor, and he was part of it. And he kind of, I don't know exactly how it worked and what his role was, but I don't want to do the white savior thing. But it's really important just to see what was going on and how the community took it upon themselves. There was a huge amount. I mean, if you can imagine, the Black Panther Party was not exactly the FBI favorite, and so there was a lot of fear and massive amounts of counter violence, and so they got shut down, and a lot of the founders put in jail. There are guns involved, and there was financial misappropriations apparently, and I think the guns are real, because if you watch the doc on, I think, Apple, Dear Mama, it's all about Tupac, but the first episode is really good, and they touch in on the first and second episodes are really good because they talk about what was happening. They don't really go too much into the Lincoln Detox Center, but I just want to talk about how important it is for people to take it upon themselves to do this. And that's what a lot of my colleagues have done. We're just doing it anyway. We're doing it despite only making $25K a year and not paying our student debts and hoping to God that somebody refers to us. Because really, financially traumatized people, as an acupuncturist, we just leveraged our lives into this. So I'm so excited to have been here all week and see so many people engaged in pain management, and so much talk about addiction recovery. And there's one thing, and I don't want to upset anybody, but I just hear one thing over and over, is we're fighting fire with fire. We're treating opiate addiction with opiates. I mean, don't get me wrong, we got to step down. I mean, if Dr. Collier's that dopamine spike and the receptors, it's horrific. And I've seen addiction, and I haven't seen so you guys have seen way more than I in that regard. But I've seen little glimpses of it, and my awareness is there. And there's some more options to help step people down so people don't live a life of just a really innocuous opiate. Because there is a stigma there, and there are more tools out there. Like, again, I'm not saying this is the grand panacea, but if we don't try, we'll never know. And it'd be really nice to start doing some proper research and getting some really organized statistics on this, because it's out there, but there's a lot of heterogeneity in the research. And if we can open this conversation up, it's really gonna be fun. And in contrast to that, this study here showed in 2004 to 2015, there was a 62% increase in lumbar fusions in the United States. And that corresponded to hospital costs of 177% increase. Okay, I mean, I'll tell people, nah, it's surgery time for you, my friend. I'm like, go. And then when you're done with your surgery, we're gonna make sure that the muscles are working, you do your PT, you're gonna get your range of motion, and we're gonna make sure that your musculoskeletal system and nervous system starts to re-regulate. It's not a problem, I don't have a problem with that. But when we're pumping out, when we're doubling our national healthcare spending, God, I mean, we're all talking about budget balancing, but we're not doing anything about it, please. I mean, come on, 177% excessive spending, $50,000 per admission. There's some more opportunities out there. And if you can, if we just increase the 1.7% of Americans that are using acupuncture, I mean, data will show it, but if we get some good eyes on it and eliminate the heterogeneity and the sloppy research that has been out there, it's getting better. It's getting a ton better because we're learning how to operate and manage data in a multidimensional environment. Better get going because I'd like to hear your questions. Cost savings, really great study in Taiwan. Taiwan is a industrialized nation, so it's really helpful. Acupuncturists are a primary care provider, which is really helpful for this data, and they have a national insurance plan, so they can extract the data and manage heterogeneity. And because they're the main microchip manufacturers of the world, they probably got some good organization systems. And when they did that, they took a retrospective study over a 10-year period and took 10,000 different patients of people that had a compounded depression and anxiety with migraine. Really big thing. I don't know if anybody's having a migraine, but yeah, find an acupuncturist, please. Reduced ER visits were demonstrated and reduced prescriptions, which reduces cost. And I don't know if anybody's ever taken sumatriptan or anything like that, or even Excedrin. They're hard on your neurologic system, they're hard on your liver, they're hard on your digestive system, they're hard on your kidneys. Nobody has a Tylenol deficiency. If you keep taking Tylenol or Excedrin, it's magical thinking. It's magical thinking, and I'm an acupuncturist telling you that. You're not creating a physiologic change. It's symptom management, it's magical thinking. And medical costs. We want to lower costs, honestly. And we want to increase our outcomes, come on. I don't want side effects from my medications. This Venn diagram, I didn't put in due to space, I didn't manage to get in cognitive behavioral therapists, but I just really wanted to illustrate in here the overlap that acupuncture can have, whether it's prescription reduction, pain and inflammation reduction, reduced narcotics, post-surgical pain management, connective tissue managing, whether it's post-surgical, physical therapy, making sure people aren't getting flare-ups from their exercises, and collaborating, because I will tell people, I'm like, okay, I want you, and it will change. Some of my folks, I'll be like, all right, go to PT and then come here within 24 hours. And then if you get flared up, if they go into hypertonicity, muscle spasticity, just an increase in pain, we have an analgesic effect. That endogenous opioids, the changes in connective tissue is what I'm talking about. And so we can help with that one. And then as we get these overlaps, and they increase the stretching. So we can get, I'll get range of motion. I'll do range of motion exams with people, car accident, people I can't move. And then whoa. And I'll be honest with you, and I don't want to use the M word in the wrong way, but magical, I sure like what I do. It's fun. I'm like, where's your headache? No. And I'll be real honest with you. Let's talk about menstrual cramps. Touch wood, to this day, there's a point. I'll be happy to show everybody the point. You can do acupressure. I've never had a woman with menstrual cramps walk out of my clinic with the menstrual cramps. Never. I really hit the wood. And I've said this a couple times, and you know what? That's just 12 years of private practice. I've only had one woman refer somebody for that condition. Ladies, you're not talking to each other. Seriously, I mean, I encourage the conversation. And that one person happened to be somebody that I knew, and I have been friends with the family through our church, and then it was their daughter who I'd known since she was a baby, and she is now like 17 years old, and and I was like, okay, I've known you too long, like go see the female practitioner, and I went over and I was like, here, this is the point you need to use. So yeah, it's really easy, and it's on your hand. It'll be easy. I'll be happy to share it with you. Keep in mind that surgical sterilized steel that an acupuncturist uses has a different physiologic effect, but acupressure works. You're still getting what's called mechanotransduction, so you're getting a physiologic change, but it's slightly different and blunted. I mean, yeah. Okay, so let's go into this and how we can work together. Really, honestly, like I said earlier, my trauma moments of talking to physicians and some of my old colleagues, and they just turned their back on me. Physician awareness, I hope that I presented with you some information that was really helpful for everybody and bring it home to wherever you're going back to. I've had conversations even this week, and it's the evidence isn't there. What? No, I'm sorry. It's outpacing, and there's researchers that do research on research, okay? You get that? These are the super nerds, and they do research on research, and biomedical research is increasing, okay? And in the amount and number of publications, but acupuncture resource, and that biomedical over the last 20 years has increased at 4.7%. I certainly hope I added that into my references. If you don't find it and you want it, I'd be happy to give it to you. I got it. 4.7% for biomedical research. Acupuncture is over 10%. So we're outpacing. People want to know, and there's more and more publications, and that's just volume of publications with some exclusion criteria involved. Okay, CCOs, just want to tip my hat to all the administrators out there in the world, but obstacles to care is part of the insurance plan. Before I came here and I knew I was building this slide out, I asked my team, because we have a front desk team that helps with scheduling, billing, patient questions and things like that. That's the way I want my doctor to be like. And so I was like, yo, so what? And every new patient that calls, we do keep a little log. It's just quick. It's what was the experience? This call will be recorded for quality assurance. That's not us. We are just humans, and we just want to know what's going on. And my team endures my curiosity, and almost 50% of our calls are from CCOs, from Medicare and Medicaid, and we turn half of those away. And some panels are closed. And not only that, I mean, anonymously, some of my colleagues who have managed to get on Care Oregon, they work out of their house in an ADU that's not ADA accessible, Americans with Disability Act accessible, and they broker out. And I was contacted recently, and they're like, hey, John, I feel like it was a deal on the street. Hey, John, we're on Care Oregon, you're not on Care Oregon. I'm like, no, I can't get on, it's crazy. And and they're like, well, do you want to bill out? You have to use our EHR, but you can bill out. And I work with all these other providers all around town. I mean, I will not speak to who that is, but I will tell you there's a problem, and we're turning away care. We're turning away care, and it's not okay. And not only that, with the administrative burden, well, come on, we're cost effective. I guess there's some examples of people milking it, but I'll tell you what, we're not the worst, and we're not billing out real high. Our reimbursement rates are terrible. I'm not asking to drive a Rolls, but I want to be able to make my house payment. Thank God I own a house, probably because my wife is an executive vice president of a company downtown, and she endures her eccentric husband. Thanks, Green. But honestly, okay, so spent a lot of time in legislation. Since 2013, I've been working with the Oregon Association of Acupuncturists, their state organization, checking time and moving fast. Okay, we're gonna wrap up. House Bill 2078, we submitted comments, we hit bias. I spent 3 years as a liaison to the Oregon Medical Board trying to break through and start the conversation, unanswered emails, bless their souls, I know they're busy. But this is really big, and then this really rubber hit the road. I know, your mom knows what I'm talking about. So, our organization has submitted all kinds of legislation, and payer disparity, because we're discriminated against in plenty of argument angles. But ultimately, our first foot forward is come on, just we're sitting here on the bench. like put us in, coach. And so what they did was there was somebody worked really, really hard, and I know how hard it is to pass legislation because we did it over, and I was like from 2018 to 2023. Oh my God, when they're a grassroots organization and legislation shuts down, that is it's so wrong. I'm sorry, I'm purple, if you will. And what I'm trying to say is I'll have a conversation with anybody, but it's irresponsible to walk out on your congressional duty. Forgive me for being political, but with this, because we had so much as a grassroots organization, like you're working with people that are taking time from their families and they're just scraping money together to get legislation passed for the good of Oregonians. And at the end of the day, when your legislation session gets compressed into like an emergency session of trying to pass like school budgets, no, like all of us that worked hard year after year, we had this happen. But what I learned is like legislation's hard enough, but the rulemaking's where it's happening. So anybody that's in policy, the rulemaking's really important. And I learned this one kind of the hard way. So when House Bill 2078, which is a pain management education requirement that came out of the opiate crisis, I know the folks, and I didn't meet who did this. It wasn't us. Passed this bill, and then it went to the Oregon Medical Board for rulemaking. We submitted comments. We're like, hey, we just tried to even we got 2 minutes to submit comments. Tried to have this conversation, submitted emails, offered evidence, and acupuncture was not added to the physician education. Mark Stevens said that the curriculum that this required to change has changed, and I actually had an invitation to contribute to it, which I will, and I'm excited to. This was probably one of the most important things that came out of this conference, but it didn't happen. It died on the vine. And the rulemaking did not really effectively change, and Oregonians' healthcare and physician education did not change. The needle did not move, no pun intended. Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Actions, I just listening, let's do some actionable items. Honestly, we gotta get acupuncture added to order sets for physicians. We gotta get it into the vernacular, put it in their face, and know that, no, this is evidence-based. Increase physician education about the evidence-based, and I get it, my God, I mean, like, some of the most harried, hardworking, busted people are nurses and physicians that are just running their hind ends off. Honestly, we gotta add an acupuncturist to the Oregon Medical Board, and please, 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 for my policymakers, find an acupuncturist near you that speaks evidence-based. There's a couple of us here today, to your work groups. We need some conversation. You need a voice. A voice is so important. Practical implementation models, like really what do we do? What does it look like? What does acupuncture look like? So you have a couple different versions. You have clinical acupuncture. This is a closed room. That's clinical acupuncture. You're gonna be able to experience a broader scope of practice. That's like a 90-minute initial intake where we actually are able to use our organizational system to create a strategy and we will translate it, and it takes skill. It takes a lot to be able to be like, okay, so like 3,000-year-old Chinese medicine, what does that mean in a mechanism of action that relates to the person sitting in front of me? It's a skill, and I always try to, and I'm training that with my team, but it's something that, and I also am a faculty at the Oregon College of Oriental Medicine, and that's all I drill in my students. I'm like, stop, take the word chi out of your vocabulary unless you're talking to a colleague, please. Okay, community acupuncture. This is actually the OAA. This is us in what used to be the foyer of the Capitol building in Salem. And we went out there, did acupuncture awareness. And this is what it looks like. I blurred out everybody's faces so the innocent shall be protected. So this is what, I call it quick and dirty acupuncture. Like 20 minutes, like I'll go to nursing facilities and I'll deliver acupuncture in 5-minute intervals. Like just me, 5 chairs, 7 people in and out before the hour's over. We'll do that, and that's community. That's like a pop-up clinic, and that is also reminiscent of community acupuncture. You're losing that face-up, face-down conversation, heat lamp, different modalities, infrared therapies, which are really crucial, herbal prescribing. Herbal prescribing isn't like drawing a gun, it's not like, ready, fire, aim. There's actually a lot of process that's involved when we're tailoring an herbal prescription, which is our pharmacologic input. And then you electrostimulation, which is really a powerful one, and there's a lot of research on that. Then there's hospital acupuncture. I have a dear friend of mine who works in a hospital, and he said, John, you join the hospital, you're gonna lose 50% of your efficacy. I was like, whoa, I like winning. I really like making, because when my patients win, they win. But that was a memorable quote. We were fishing and we were just chatting about it. And I was like, oh my God, private practice, it's so hard. And he's like, sure, you could come, but do you want to lose? I mean, like, the patients still win, but I love hitting home runs. I love it when people walk out and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, yes. Okay, expectations. What do you need to know when you're choosing an acupuncturist? I really want to make sure that you guys have some power to like discernment. Provider training. You're going to want to, like, a lot of, honestly, as a faculty member and a graduate, I'm in a doctoral program, the training is really it's great, but it doesn't provide that communication that we've been really emphasizing today. Provider consistency. It's hard what we do. Like, it's hard. There's, like, you just don't stab a point because the data said stomach 36 right here on the front of your anterior aspect of your tibialis anterior. There's much more to it than that, and it's fascinating. And if you like a good puzzle, become an acupuncturist, because we're working puzzles every day, and it's really cool. You want somebody that can actually translate the really cool into something that's practical. Like, people don't want to hear about chi, man. So ADA accessibility, really important. More and more of my colleagues are stepping up the game. Insurance billing, I really find that to be an important component. People appreciate that. We check insurance benefits. We have a human at our front desk, if not two, that are there. And because insurance is complicated and it kills us. My overhead is so much higher because of the complications, chasing down unpaid payments, doing credentialing. It's a game. It's a game. Scheduling, you want somebody, and then cleanliness, goodness sake. This is our clinic. And I've showed you a couple pictures of it. Like, I think I'm a healthy version of OCD. You know, my wife was probably like, no. But that one time, no, that was just too much. But honestly, we sterilize, we like sanitize every single time, and that's why I have people at the front desk. And your provider's not doing that because I'm thinking about what I should be thinking about, and all my team is built around that. Because you want your acupuncturist, you want your medical provider with their head in the game. They don't want to be like, oh, dude, I forgot to wipe that counter and change that, and that pillow's messed up. You don't want that. So these are some expectations. The needle thing, okay? I'm gonna quick par-cue you. Okay, I'm not gonna par-cue you. I'm gonna tell you what I was gonna give you what I would do, say to a new acupuncture patient every single time, but ultimately communication is the cornerstone. If you're not communicating with your medical provider, I'm always inviting people to communicate with us and understand the sensations that they're gonna experience. It should be comfortable. Most people fall asleep. Most people feel relaxed because not only do you have an endogenous endorphin release, but you're also changing your vasovagal tone, your muscle tension, etc. Side effects. Side effects are minimal. Bruising, really? That's the most common one. And then there's the horrible possibility that happens in like 1 out of 100,000 people is a pneumothorax, and that's like puncturing the lung. Because we go to 4,000 hours of school, that's like the dreaded pneumothorax. Like, it's drilled into our heads. The Society for Acupuncture Safety shows that the majority of acupuncture injuries that are doctor's visits are not done by licensed acupuncturists. It's not us, but the code for it attributes it to us, so it took some digging. Sucky. Man, kick a man when they're down, kick a person when they're down. So anyway, so what are we doing? Dosing. I really want you to understand when you're bringing this back to your people, creating physiologic change. So we're creating muscle memories. Muscles get bad memories. Muscles have good memories. Nerves do too. So we want to make sure that we're managing that. So in severe and chronic acute situations, I will say, you know, I want to see you twice a week for the next 3 weeks. I don't want to see you all the time forever, but I really want to make sure that we're understanding. You don't go to the gym once a week or once a month, do one push-up and call it good. So we're going to actually create a change, and I want to graduate you. We're always creating openings in our schedule because we're graduating people. I'll see you in a month is what I want to say. And then severe recovery situations, you're going to really want to increase that. You'll probably be in inpatient situations, community acupuncture every single day. Probably really important for those of you that are boots on the ground and you're really working hard. Keep that in mind to be really effective. Conclusions. Okay. What we got here? We got improved patient. I'm going to run through this because I want to hear your words, not mine. Patient outcomes, evidence-based. This is all what acupuncture represents. Acupuncture is good for effective pain management, supports opiate reduction, it supports addiction recovery. Mechanisms of action are there. It increased cost savings. If we can get the federal Medicare plans reduced and get the physician out of the way who's billing up really high, we will start seeing cost savings when we're able to treat low back pain as an individual provider. But right now you have a middleman in there, and it's killing the data. And then we got to change that. We got to start a conversation, because 1% utilization, 1.7% utilization's not okay. This is me. Please ask me about my TED Talk, and scan for references. So by all means, fact check me. Conversation is open. Thank you so much. I know I'm gone over time. Yes, ma'am.
I have a horrible fear of needles.
Yeah.
Horrible, I can't even see it on TV. And how long is the average time would someone be doing acupuncture?
You bet. So the question is, I have a horrible fear of needles, and how long does somebody do acupuncture? A good acupuncturist, like, it's not, the needles aren't needles as you know from a doctor's office. It's totally different. It's a different FDA regulated device completely. Like, there's touch. So if you find somebody that's not managing your touch well, communicate. I have a whole variety of different types of needles available, and then like, honestly, we have to tailor it to you. Like, some people are like, kids, I don't even break the skin with kids, and you can still get the physiologic change. I have a whole pediatric kit, and I'll treat some adults like that. So it's like we adjust to you. And then depending on the condition, you really want to sit down and hopefully get your provider to manage dosing and repetition. But I would also just keep depending on chronicity, like, I had a guy that had nerves cut during post-op or during a cervical disc replacement. I see him every 2 weeks. And we've transformed his life. He has sensation, and he's not stuck like that anymore. It's cool. So talk to your provider. Anybody else, please and thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Is an additional, like, support mechanism
Oh, yeah.
for people with all of those issues, but that statement is not okay in my book.
It's great. Let me repeat that so that anybody that couldn't hear that, because I agree with you, and I just want to acknowledge that. And I am nudging y'all a little bit, and I know it was a big nudge. I nudged that. So the question was, or the comment was, my slide with "we're fighting fire with fire" is totally inappropriate because we're saving lives. Did I encapsulate that well? Yeah. Okay. And then.
Buprenorphine is not fire. It's an evidence-based medicine that is absolutely helping people and having them thrive.
Yeah, and buprenorphine is an evidence-based medicine and helping people thrive. Absolutely. I thought about that one, and I really wanted to make sure that that I acknowledge that. But we do have a lot of evidence based on things that that aren't so good, but we have some more tools. And thank you for acknowledging that acupuncture is part of that. And I did not intend to imply, and I think I was clear to at least, like, just saying, like, keep doing it, keep going. And it was a yes and. So I just want to make sure that, yes, I agree with you. I've seen it. I've seen the lives, and I'm not blind. I know. But I wanted to throw in the yes and. I was like, but if we only rely on one mechanism of action, that's what I was trying to say.
I mean, Nora's here, Kat's here, like, there's a lot of people here who are a huge believer in the interdisciplinary model to support people, so I just wanted to be clear on that. The other thing I wanted to speak to is that acupuncture is a covered benefit amongst CCOs, and in my experience, one of the challenges we have is, and this is not everywhere, so I know it's complex, is there's acupuncture clinics, just like lots of other clinics, I'm not saying just acupuncture either, who actually don't want to contract with OHP. So it's a complex issue. It is a benefit for certain conditions that have evidence, and I get evidence in acupuncture is complex because there's not the funding that's needed for the research, and there should be. But it is a covered benefit, and it is a service that Oregon Health Authority and CCOs do want to provide. And there are definitely many clinics So the cap could be multiple different.
Right, but we are a clinic, and I was speaking from personal experience. We are a clinic that has made multiple attempts over the year. But yeah, so the comment in question, or the comment was like the representation of limited access to care. It can be also clinic facing. Yeah, and so some clinics opt out, and that's in administrative burdens. It's a choice. Oh, absolutely. And I think I was really clear that we're an essential care benefit in there, and that's in the Oregon regulatory statutes, or not in the ORS, but OAR. And so, yeah, we're legally defined as that. So all CCOs have acupuncture benefits. So all of you running out there, find an acupuncturist near you. But yeah, some people, like some clinics explicitly do not. I have unpaneled from a couple private insurances just because they don't play well with others. I mean, it's like, I have to wait a year to get paid $34. Are you kidding me? Like, I spent an hour of my time, and that person's better now. They were gone. And yeah, and then they kick at the patient. It's like, there's choices. It's complex, I acknowledge. So yeah, I appreciate diving into the insurance. I'd be more than happy to explore that more and make sure people understand the challenges that are on the top level and the bottom level. Yeah. Yeah, there's some updates that I'm not privileged to because I've exited from that arena. But and Mark Stevenson said that there's some changes that have occurred since I've been privileged to that in 2021 when I submitted those comments, and those decisions were made under my purview. Thank you. I'm sorry, what's that? Your working commission is actually chaired by an acupuncturist. Fabulous. I did not know that. Who is that? Zach Corbett? Oh yeah, out of Lane County. Zach's great. Yeah, I've worked with Zach for years. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Zach. Absolutely. Please, anything else? I'd be more than happy to speak now or later. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.